electronic fuel injection. This shows the advancement of the technology with regard to automotives. It used to be, there was no seat belt in most of the time, only the passenger and the driver side seat belt. The safety features now is coming up with a multi-package of airbags and anti-brake lock systems and central door lock, power window. It's all the way, it's a recent phenomena in automotive evolution which we see. How many of know, or witnessed about the shift, the dynamics of from stick shift to automatic shift? There was also people resistance because of specialization or operations or towards maintaining and encouraging to have automatic transmission. Now the technology is becoming self-driving. Driverless cars are coming. Autonomous cars are coming. These all the beauties of automotives. Now we are in the era of electric cars driving and hydrogen or fuel cell. We are at this stage. This is all during only in a few years it happened. Changes are coming and consumers are adapting and taking the technology is getting faster and faster. When we come to our operation to specific to Ethiopia with the regulation and the policies of under the ministry, our company is named as Marathon Motor Engineering. My chairman is there, the hero of the world, athlete Haile Gebrselassie. So with the initiative, we started the company in 15 years now. When we started with a conventional engine, assembling about 14 models, which is including the high-end cars, the mass transports, trucks, and passenger cars. So right after the establishment, some 4 years before, we just started all the cars to be towards the shift of the policy of the country, which is electric cars. It was in 2020. Everybody knows that time was, pandemic breakout. During the COVID era, we started the first historic electric cars, Ioniq. We launched it, and again, right after a year for the second model, which is Kona launched, there was a resistance from the consumer side in the country or in the place where less electricity. How come electric cars is operating? It was really a challenge, to have this adoption and moving forward. But today, in the road of Addis, we can see thousands of cars now with multi-brands are running. We are happy with that. The fear is, is so practical and it's organic from the consuming point of view, because when we think about electric cars, people, if once the system or the malfunction of the electric system stops, then the car looks like easily burned. So how can you really, take this challenge and fix it and get the confidence of the customers? What we did, we started assembling the charging station, the chargers with the different capacities, and we put in the factory and get confidence. We gave for a year a free of charge of supply energy for all the cars we sold with a green card. Then the confidence comes. It's getting better and better. The other option, what we did with a two-port supply with electric cars, one with household charging, the other one is a quick charging. For 1 year, for free supply of energy, we gave no one really visited our office because everyone is enjoying with household charger. There is no problem with electric cars. That's what we did. So the most important in the automotive or the electric cars is the coverage of the warranty. The one which we manufacture and supply, and we give a confidence for warranty, which we give 8 years or 160,000 kilometers distance operation, whichever comes first. But during that time, the battery long life is going. The quality batteries, the quality of the battery matters. If I say one of the models goes like 400 kilometers or 300 kilometers, that warranty should cover, with that quality of the battery. When we start, the battery is coming in under one cross-section. Today, technology is improving. It's coming for 3-section road. There is also spare parts, to supply and selling as it is. We remember when we use the conventional engine, we used it to have ignition key, like ignition, changing for some of the conventional engine parts. In the case of electric, we have also a sale to change parts. I think the way and the move towards electrification in my country is more encouraging. We are seeing and coming now, we are on the 4th model and the 5th model. Next year, in 2025, we are coming 3 models. In 2027, almost 100% of our manufacturing plants goes to electric cars.
Thank you, Mr. Malkamo. This is very impressive. The journey is very impressive. Maybe later we'll come to the future plans you have in the industry, but let me first go to Mr. Christopoulos so that we can have a continental idea. Now we have been talking about Ethiopia's perspective. Mr. Christopoulos, with your extensive background in sustainable and equitable urban mobility system, what are the key challenges and opportunities you have encountered while working on sustainable mobility projects across various African countries? We'd like to hear the experience of other African nations who passed through this process. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. So I alluded to some of the challenges in my presentation, where one of the key issues is that we still have too much finance being directed toward highways for cars. And so this is locking in high carbon urban mobility patterns in our cities. And we need to redirect that finance to more sustainable modes. So take those resources, start putting them into public transport, walking and cycling. And one of the key challenges then in investing in public transport is we need to work toward formalizing the industry. So for anyone who lives in an African city where the public transport's predominantly informal, you know how challenging it can be to move around, to know that you're going to get to work on time. If you need to, if you're a caregiver and you're trying to bring a child onto public transport, it can be really challenging. And that situation is just not tenable if we want our cities to be sustainable and efficient. We need to have good quality public transport for our people. And to do that, we need action on 2 fronts. So on the private sector side, we need to help the industry formalize, right? So assist with the company formation so that we can move away from the very informal setup that we have now. We need to change the labor practices so that the workforce in the public transport industry gets a fair deal, that they can have salaried employment contracts with workplace benefits. We need to see more gender equity in the industry. We don't have a lot of women working in roles like driving, as conductors and so on. And then we also need to have action from governments. So, for a very long time, the assumption has been that the private sector can take care of public transport operations and government doesn't have to spend anything to improve it. So we really need to change that approach, and government should start investing in depots so that we have a place to keep buses, to maintain them. We have places to install the charging equipment so that we can electrify the fleets. Investing in the rolling stock so that operators can adopt high quality vehicles. And then on the high demand corridors, going for BRT so that we can provide dedicated road space for buses. So those are, some of the key challenges. And I think for a long time it's been easy to paper over these issues and just think that, okay, if I just widen the road, that's going to solve the problem. And then I don't have to tackle all of those difficult challenges in the city. But we have to start looking at that, like how we can address those core issues so that we can have more equitable transport in our cities.
Thank you, Mr. Christopoulos, for raising the issue of equitable transport and for addressing a bit the gender aspect of this mobility and equitable urban mobility system in Africa. That's an interesting, I'm a woman, and that part interested me and caught my ears. Let me come back to Mr. Malaku, as someone who has been in this business for a while, how is your experience with international markets? How do you see the future of green mobility in Africa? Now I want you to see the bigger perspective, the continent, not only from Ethiopia. Of course, you started in Ethiopia, but how do you see the market for the continent in whole? Thank you.
Thank you again, Annie. Well, you know, today, this stage is we are talking about today's and the future. So the future is we rely or depend on the green emission. Probably the only emission we live with it only with the carbon dioxide. The human breathes out. That's what we believe. With regard to my country, no doubt, you know, just 4 years now, we all like, you know, we sprinted, I call it. It's not like walking, but Ethiopia is already going fast way. So the continent of Africa in the same situation because the only energy we have is renewable energy, which is going to be no replacement, you know, as for that. So the continent of Africa is, in general, is blessed for that. So we are, you know, even if we left behind, we are really happy with that. You know, catching the new technology with renewable energy is going to be a great opportunity for Africa too. And for others too. With regard to, you know, specific to our plant and as explained earlier by His Excellency, we are, is coming up, multi-manufacturers are coming in Ethiopia. When we start, we were 3. Today is over 20 assembly plant in Ethiopia. We are moving towards from semi-knockdown, you know, assembly plant to complete knockdown to CKD, which is, we believe, we start exporting, you know, EV cars to neighboring countries and maybe towards the whole continent of Africa in line with the policy of the direction of the Africa and my country. So the future is bright. So we have, you know, with the hydropower and any renewable energy that fits to the electrification. So we are the future marketing or the future, we are on the right track, on the fast track. I can say the future is more confident to promote green mobility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malaku, for mentioning the hydroelectric power projects because those promotes a regional connectivity, and this will help us to expand the green mobility initiative we'll start here. Let me go to Mr. Christopher again. Mr. Christopher, your role in Africa's transport have taken you across a lot of cities in Africa. And you had the opportunity to review and see the strategies of different African cities. So we'd like to hear from you and share experience from your end, how best experience from one city can be shared to other cities. You have been across the streets of Ghana, Nairobi, and other beautiful African cities. How can we share this experience to other African nations? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, and it's great to see more and more exchange happening among African cities. I think there hasn't been enough in the past, and so it's good to see events like this happening where we can learn what's working well. You know, Dar es Salaam is one of the cities that inspires us a lot. They opened their first phase BRT line that's 21 kilometers long, carries 200,000 people a day, and it's been able to cut travel times by half. And you see people leaving their cars at the terminal and taking the bus into town because they don't want to waste time stuck in traffic. And the corridor also has good walkways, cycle tracks, and they've almost finished construction on the phase 2. Phases 3 and 4 are under construction. Phase 5 is financed. So within a short span of time, Dar es Salaam is going to have a rapid transit system, a high quality, accessible system serving the entire metropolitan area. And that's the kind of transformation that we need to see in cities across the region. We need to speed up our efforts. Dakar recently launched its BRT earlier this year. It's a fully electric BRT and also has really good walking and cycling facilities, universal access, and they're also now working with other with operators on other corridors to formalize the public transport throughout the city and build the required infrastructure, high-quality depots that can support a growing bus system. And then bringing it back to Ethiopia, you know, Addis Ababa has been one of the really inspiring cities for getting its act together on walking and cycling. You know, from the launch of the NMT strategy, the non-motorized transport strategy in 2019 for the city of Addis Ababa, and then the federal strategy, there's been a very clear commitment over many years to develop very safe streets for pedestrians and cyclists. And we need to see that happen in more cities so that it's comfortable to walk around. You know, you don't feel like you have to get into a vehicle for every trip. So there's a lot of change happening in the region, and let's work together to step up the efforts and get more finance moving toward these kinds of projects.
Thank you, Mr. Christopher. We're very happy to see that there's a lot of change happening across African cities, and I'm sure, with your permission, Excellency Barrow, our audience will have the opportunity to visit around the city and the roads and the development as well. And I have a final question for you, Excellency Barrow. Given the challenge and the opportunities in transitioning to sustainable transport solution, what strategic partnership and collaboration has been essential in achieving Ethiopia's green mobility goals? And what lesson other African countries can share from Ethiopian experience, especially when it comes to strategic partnership with private sector and other financing institutions and collaborations you have worked through these projects? Thank you.
Thank you, Anani. When we come to investment opportunities, we have to focus on private partnerships to make a green mobility practical on the ground. Our government is working on it, and especially we are trying to open up the public transport for private sector. Previously, up to 45 seats are already protected for local private sector, but currently we are trying to open up it because transport sector is by itself needs heavy investment and also competitive operators. To get that capability, we are trying to open up our sector, and we had already give policy incentives to the sector to attract international and local private investments. For example, we had already banned fossil-based fuel vehicles for the past years, and we gave tax exemptions for electric vehicles at all. The only 5% of customs tax had already been placed on fully assembled importing vehicles. The rest had already made free. And the charging stations and parts of electric vehicles also made tax free. So this and other non-financial incentive packages will hopefully will attract the international investors and local investors to join our green mobility journey. So we have our national renewable and electric vehicles implementation strategy, which is evaluated periodically by stake of ministers. Our Minister of Transport and Logistics chairs that platform, and Industry Minister is Vice Chair. In that strategies, we identified 5 projects, cluster-based projects, but it needs engagements of private investors and also needs heavy investment. So our partners and participants, I call up for you to join our journey and make the green mobility of Ethiopia to be happening on the ground.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for raising the issue of public-private partnership. That's a key solution for financing transport sector in even all types of infrastructure in the continent. So I would like to thank all of my panelists, but I want all of you to say one takeaway for this session in one sentence. If you have to say or to give a takeaway of this panel discussion to the audience in one sentence, I'll give the chance to you. Maybe we can start that from Mr. Melaku and go to the Mr. Christopher, then finally Excellency Barrow will give us a final word. Thank you.
Thank you again for the chance. So, I think we have to rely on today's and the future, because the past is the past, it's already gone. So, we have to take out ourselves from the fossil fuel dependency to the future of renewable energy, which is most important. But every one of us should take commitment of leadership. I know that, my country is highly committed, to promote renewable energy, which is, as mentioned by His Excellency, there are a lot of incentives. Other brothers and sisters of African continent, I'm sure, will be together, and we do a lot, and we consult each other, and we promote green mobility across Africa and all over the world. This is our message. But be confident, there is a challenge, it always comes, we live in it, but we have to struggle and run to win it and depend on renewable energy. Thank you.
Okay, one sentence from my side. Stop building urban highways and invest in walking, cycling, and electrified public transport. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let us connect Africa on ground. Let us break hectic bureaucracy. We have everything, but we are not yet connected. The continent is rich in every aspect, but let us be trusted for our Agenda 2063. If we make that, our journey will be practical, and the challenges will be overcome. Thank you.
Of sustainable transport. It seems like we have to focus implication of sustainability to achieve our goal in Africa. So I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all panelists who have been here and to all the audience who have been listening to this session attentively. And thank you very much. Together, let us continue to strive for sustainable, resilient future through transformative mobility solutions in Africa. Thank you very much.
Sub-Saharan Africa regional programs for economic integration, trades, digital and science, technology and innovation. And he is a trained civil engineer, so he served as well in some delegations, including Guinea, Conakry, Ivory Coast and Tanzania. So he knows quite a bit about infrastructure development on our beautiful continent. And he will kick us off and highlight the EU partnership offered for digital infrastructure in Africa. So Fabio, welcome to our session. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I will start with a brief introduction. I will not speak too long because we have an interesting panel upcoming. So just to say, maybe coming from the big perspective of the European Union, so you know that everybody in this world, for the European Union as well, the digital transformation, the human-centric digital transformation is one of the relatively recent priorities. Of course, it is a big priority within the European Union, but we have also decided it to be a priority in our partnership with the rest of the world, and in particular, I hope you have already heard about our Global Gateway Initiative, that it is a big initiative of the European Union in its relationship with the third countries, including, and probably as a priority, Africa, and which aim is to connecting people. And I think that if maybe until now the connecting people was done through mainly transport, for sure tomorrow and even today connecting people is done through what we call digital connectivity. So in Europe we have established an European Union digital single market in order to allow data to flow, to be optimally used, while ensuring privacy, data protection, and the respect of the competition law. We are very keen to support also the African continent in also the implementation of the single digital market that the African Union has agreed to launch. And under this digital single market, clearly one of the pillars, one of the main components is to have a solid data strategy. We in Europe, we have a data strategy. We have recently decided a Data Act in 2024, and with other partners we have been also supporting the African Union Commission and the African Union to prepare and to draft the African Union data strategy. Data strategy, which is key in our point of view for a data-driven digital transformation. And of course, let me say two important slogans: energy efficiency, that we will discuss during the panel, and privacy, data protection. So secure, cyber-secure data sharing. The data, for these principles, we have decided to put in place a digital and data investment facility that will be presented by our colleague from Finland, because you might have heard or not that in Europe in the last years we have launched the so-called Team Europe initiatives. Basically, the European Commission plus all the member states of the European Union are working together to bring a common European offer to our partners in the world. So one concrete example of this Team Europe partnership is the creation of this digital investment facility with Finland and Germany. And the main scope of this facility, it is to, at the end of the story, to develop and to promote bankable projects, notably in data centers, but it is not only infrastructure, it is also services that are provided. And of course, this facility is a facility on demand, and on one side, this facility will work to really look for and promote investments. You know better than me that in data centers, the investment have to come from the private sector. So our main objective, and it will be to attract private investments. So of course this digital investment facility will also work in supporting the development of standards on how to build a data center in order for the data center to consume less energy as possible, because I mean we all know the data center, they eat a lot of energy, so we need also to provide green energy, or we need to build the data centers in order that they don't consume too much energy, and as I said before, also the support in the necessary legislation to also promote the construction. And I think this initiative of AUDANEPA that today we will discuss about creating a continental master plan for the development of data center will be an important element for the promotion of such investments. So without further delay, I leave the floor to the panelists. I hope we will have a fruitful discussion also to guide a bit and to feed the reflection on how really to quickly boost the development of data centers in Africa in particular. Thank you very much. Have a nice panel. Thanks.
Thank you very much for setting us up, Fabio. So next on stage is Teppo Ketula. He is a manager at our digital investment facility for HOUSE, the Finnish Institute for Public Management. And prior to this, Teppo was managing partner at Limerock Fund Management. And he has a background in mechatronics and industrial automation, and he served in different key executive roles and positions in the ICT sector. And Teppo will present the concrete initiative and show how basically the partnership offer can be brought to life. And Teppo, it's good to have you. Over to you.
Thank you. Dear audience, it's a pleasure to be able to discuss these vital things today, namely the data infrastructure and data centers. What we want to achieve in the digital investment facilities is really promote early stage initiations from data centers and IXPs into bankable projects in a practical way. So we try to pave the way from the normal approach of investors, discussions, and having a lot of problems with the, let's say, investor side, addressing to your particular project. Fabio described well the European approach to issues here, and the display makes it even easier for me to describe it. Namely, this is very structured approach. There's an EU level, there's Team Europe level, there's Global Gateway level, and there's also data governance in Africa level. But don't worry, you don't have to know the details about this. The digital investment facility will address into, let's say, practical data center investment issues. And in the map, we are the third pillar in the data governance in Africa program, where there is also sections for data policy and regulation to support the governments to hold in place proper legislation. There's also data value creation and cross-border data flows section where let's say the content to all this is going to be held. And the third one is the hardcore data centers digital infrastructure. Okay, we seem to have a flashing flashing system at the moment. Okay, let's look at this digital investment facility. So what it is all about. As a rehearsal, again, we are scoping and preparing bankable projects to investors. So if you're into digital infrastructure, you can come to us. I look like a Viking. I will be mingling here back and forth this week, so don't hesitate to contact me on these things. We do have a mandate on data centers and IXPs. Our mandate is also in sub-Saharan Africa. We have, let's say, offices and locations in Senegal, in Kenya, and South Africa at the moment, but we are also focusing to all the countries in the area. We particularly like projects in secondary markets, so those places where the data infrastructure is not yet so developed as well. Then our process, a bit, let's say, cumbersome and a bit difficult to update, but it's easy to get in. We have, for data center projects, etc., other infrastructure projects also, we have an expression of interest. That's on the website. You can come in, file in your project, give a little bit of information about it, and we do a little bit of legal work at the same time, and then off you go, send it. It's a 15-minute rehearsal. We have a 2-week promise to reply you whether your project is eligible or non-eligible to us. And if it is eligible, we would take you to a little bit further down in a paperwork, so that we would ask more details on the project in the form of submission of activity brief. So it's a bit longer document which states your present project condition, what kind of support would you like to have, where would you like to go, what would you like to achieve. And then we start to ball around that internally. We go into EU, we go into Commission, we go to European institutional investors, we go up to private sector investors, and we start the discussions on your project. We do also private projects. We are signing NDAs, so in that sense, it's a normal investment process in question. And then, if everybody agrees, we can take you. We are in the number 5. We can take you into the process and provide you with the technical assistance, either from in-house, from our team, or outside consultants that are supporting the program. And together and simultaneously with this process, we are also talking to the investors and provide your project into the investor preparation on your behalf and on your consent. And of course, we would hope very many successful projects, bankable investments done in some sub-Saharan Africa. So this is kind of a practical way of who to contact with a particular project. You can contact us, you can contact me, our team, you can contact EU, and we will take it and tailor-made the project with you. Okay, eligibility. So, not everything is kind of what it, let's say, eligible. Our main focus, as said, is data infrastructure projects, namely data centers, IXPs. We do have case-by-case acceptance also on fiber and national backbone projects as well. Location has to be sub-Saharan Africa. Then we are following the ESG, which is used in Europe, as well as from the energy side. Our minimum ticket size is about 5 million, so it's a small number. Usually data centers can be up to 100 million. Our project initiations are over 20 right now, and the capex of those is over 3 billion euros. So there's plenty of activity going on already. Revenue generation. If you want to have your project financed, of course you need the revenue, the cash flow, and so that is one thing that we are securing under the process. And we like private sector, we like public sector, and we like particularly those working together. So we do have public sector projects, we do have a lot of private sector projects, but we like to see PPPs as well. Okay. Beyond that, we also provide other services, namely technical guidelines, and thereof capacity building, or let's say training programs. Those on the green data center issues, financing models, and connectivity, cybersecurity, trusted connectivity. We are holding investor discussions weekly with investors and provide the information from initiated projects. We do produce market information from Africa as well. So who is doing what, where, how much, what is the existing capacities, and possibly also the greenfield projects that are public. We provide information that goes mainly to the investors, so they have a foresight, what's going on, what's coming in, and where they want to come in. And then we have laid down this kind of a financial analyst framework to risk analysis of country and regional levels. We have such a package as well. Our team, at the moment we are 10 people, so 5 of us up north, and then five of us here in the different locations in our offices and regions. So that's basically it. I hope you have caught a grasp, and you can always grab me, Yassin, and on these things. And if possible, please let us know about your thoughts. There's a QR code you can photograph and then or use. There's a little feedback let's say packet.
Yes. Thank you so much, Teppo, for laying out how actually the support on developing a pipeline of infrastructure projects can actually be accessed. And we're demand-based, so please don't hesitate to get back to us and discuss with us, because we care to actually also optimize the outlook of a project proposal to achieve bankability, so being ripe for investment. So also Also, we want to hear from you, as Teppo said. We have a few questions, but also an open section where we would like to hear what you consider valuable and important in this debate. So this is your chance to also get involved now. And with this, we are moving to our second part, where we try to unfold the challenges and opportunities in the data center market in Africa. And let's welcome our esteemed panelists that will help to unfold this topic and debate with us. So we will have Faith Waitaka from Schneider Electric. She will bring along insights into the role of renewable energy and also green technologies in enhancing data centers' performance. We will have Martin Koyabe from the Africa Hub of the Global Forum on Cyber Expertise. He will discuss with us what governments and the industry can do to protect their digital infrastructures. We are having Nanla Lamini he's a program manager from the Southern Africa Telecommunications Association, and will put a focus on the perspectives and the importance of regional collaboration. And last but not least, Digo Waktola. Are you around, Digo? Haven't spotted you yet. No? Okay, so please, Nanla, come on stage. So a round of applause for our panelists, please. So let me kick the discussion off with a figure, right? To again put some perspective into the topic. At present, the global data center industry, so globally, accounts for approximately 2.5% of global carbon emissions. And that is equivalent to the commercial aviation industry altogether. So while we discuss and look at the role of the aviation industry in the context of climate change, we hardly discuss data centers. And if you blend this in with a huge growth potential and capacity gaps and needs, it's becoming clear basically that there's an issue that we have to deal with, but also a tremendous opportunity to shape the future that we want. So we will start with a discussion on energy efficiency and sustainability. And Faith, Schneider Electric, right, is a key player in the adoption of green technologies and also renewable solutions. What do we do about the carbon intensity of the sector?
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I jump into green energy and carbon emissions, I think I should bring everybody to the foundation. What is a data center? So this is how I like to explain data centers. Data centers are just real estate buildings. So when you build an apartment block, for example, but instead of having people live inside it, you have servers, computers live inside that building. So talking about carbon emissions is because these servers need a lot of energy to run and they need to be cooled. When we look at most data centers in Africa, we only as Africa account for 1% of the global data centers. America alone accounts for 58%. Africa, 1%. So for us in Africa, when we're looking at carbon emissions, where would I like to start as someone who's building data centers? I'd like to start at design stage. Teppo was here. He talked about helping in design. When you're envisioning building an apartment, you don't just start and then in the middle of it, figure it out. You get an architect, they design it, and then you get a team to deploy it. So same to data centers. We have consultants, we have investors who are willing to help with the design stage so that as we start at design level, we're thinking about these green technologies like solar, like geothermal, which we have here in Ethiopia, we have in Kenya, in Mozambique, in Nigeria. We're starting to think about those things from design stage so that when we're deploying these data centers, they are already covering the green aspect and reducing the carbon footprint.
Thank you, thank you. Just a follow-up question, because you gladly started to elaborate what a data center actually is. But why are they so energy hungry?
So the reason data centers are energy hungry is two things: power and cooling. So servers, just like you, imagine being in Dubai in July. If you've been in Dubai in July, you don't want to go back to Dubai again, true? 50, 55 degrees, heat waves, sit at home, don't go anywhere. It's the same with computers. They don't like being too hot. So what happens is they need to be cooled. And most of the energy in a data center goes to powering the computers and cooling them. If any of you have ever been in a data center, you've noticed that it's very cold. It's actually too cold for human beings. And that's why companies like Schneider Electric try as much as possible to only cool the computers themselves and not the entire room. That actually also helps with efficiency a lot. So the main reason between data centers being energy hungry is power and cooling necessary for the servers to run.
Thank you, thank you. Let's continue on that, because we know that power and cooling cost money. And from your interactions with the sector and also the industry, the data center operators, do you think or do you observe that businesses or clients of the data centers are actually willing to pay a premium to store the data in a green, like more energy efficient way?
Absolutely. And the main reason is, for a data center, you're not just looking at a CapEx investment, you're looking at a continuous OpEx investment. So you'd rather pay a premium at the beginning on your CapEx to reduce your OpEx costs, which are recurring costs and might end up being way higher in the end. So looking at Africa as a whole, I find that data center operators, data center companies prefer to actually design with sustainability, with operational excellence, and with efficiency top of mind from the start.
Okay, that's really insightful and interesting to know. So caring about energy efficiency is a wise business decision, apparently, right? So now also bringing in the perspective of regulation, Nanla, South Africa, as one of the countries in the Southern African region, is the primary hub of data centers on the continent, with more than, I think, 50 data centers running at the moment. And they are fed by one of the most carbon-intensive energy markets as well in the world, and relying on diesel generators as backups due to the challenging situation on the ground. So in your experience, what barriers exist in the Southern African region to also integrate more renewable energies into the provision of energy in the region? So what are the barriers that exist in the region to also infuse and incentivize more uptake of renewable energies, so that data centers, for example, can rely on greener technologies and greener energy sources?
Thank you, Yasin. My name is Nhlanhla Dlamini from SATA, Southern Africa Telecommunications Association. Let me answer your question, Yasin, in a longer way. Yes, actually, our way of working, we are thinking of the end customer then. How the end customer enjoys the ICT. We say our ICTs should impact the people by reducing primarily the cost. Now, talking of the data center, we know that the data center are going to enhance the entire internet ecosystem. Now, we have been doing many programs, we've been having many programs actually, programs that are contributing to that. Recently, we have been working with IXPs to prove how they've helped and they're helping people. Are our ICTs that are impacting the people out there? We have seen and proved that the IXPs are really reducing the costs of the ICTs out there. So now, the data center, it is so imperative to have data centers whereby it will be easy for the people to do business and the cost will be low.
Yeah, thank you indeed. And when we say enhancing the access to state-of-the-art ICTs, of course, state-of-the-art data centers are as well important. How do you see basically the chances to use a data center that is located in South Africa, for example, from Botswana or somewhere else? And what is your perspective as a regional association on this?
Okay. In this era, I think the regulation now there needs to be innovative and adaptive so that we can catch up with the concept of a data center. It is no secret that data is the new oil. Data is the currency. We need that. And for that to happen and to be realized, we need the data centers out there. So our regulation, regional collaborations, we need to change the approach, probably to unify the approach in each and every country, because all countries have different data laws. We've got different approaches, but it can happen. Recently, we've built up a concept as SATA now, the concept of borderless network. What we're trying to do is we're saying, let us remove the concept of borders now, so that all other concepts can be clear how we can achieve them, and subsequently achieving to the end customer.
So regulation has a role to play in order to foster the flow of data across borders, or even eradicate borders in the digital space. But also next to the energy question and also the regulation question, cybersecurity is imperative, because if you store the data in a certain space, you also would like to be sure that it's secure and not accessed by someone else. So here the topic of data centers and cybersecurity is vital. So Martin, next to this, like from your perspective, what are the most important steps that governments here and also worldwide should take to secure the data of their citizens?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much. My name is Martin Koyabe, as said earlier. What I want to do is to just compress the whole discussion about security. We've had the discussion about investment. We've had the discussion about architectural design. We've had a discussion about regional collaboration. But a data center is also an asset. And given the fact that it's an asset, there is a need to protect the data center, to make it more resilient, but more importantly, to make sure that the services it provides are secure. From a country perspective, in the continent, we have what we call the Malabo Convention of Cybersecurity and Data Protection. We all know that. Thanks to Mauritania for ratifying the Malabo Convention in June last year. After the ratification, we still have only one country that has ratified after the ratification went through, or the convention became forceful in 2023. So the question is, we need to make sure that we have secure frameworks that are regional, as said, and also secure frameworks that can be able to ensure that the data centers operate in an environment that is actually secure. The second thing that we need to look at is the opportunity. When you send data from one location to the next, you'd expect that data to be treated in the same manner with the same security that you expect. So therefore, every country has an obligation to make sure that they have the necessary framework and the necessary policies that are robust enough to ensure that data is protected. We are talking about the AFDC, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and for us to be able to expand on that, then the issue around a framework is very, very important.
Thank you. So, what about the topic of data localization? That is always coming up when we speak about like the geographies of data centers and how to basically grow a digital economy, a national digital economy. Could you also elaborate on this from a cybersecurity standpoint and also security standpoint per se?
Yeah, that's a good question, because what happens with data localization, it's either you push the data close to the citizens so that they can use it, or you have it in the cloud. But even in that particular sense, we need to make sure that the data that we have some control on that particular data. And what we are seeing is that there is an opportunity that if we are able to provide and protect the data that we generate, either for business, make it more secure, it can also allow us to be able to push the data to other locations because we know it has already been secured in the manner that we want. So for countries that are here and individuals that are here, it's important that when you go back, make sure that if you don't have a data protection and privacy law, it's installed or rather implemented. If you have a harmonization effort across the region, like in the SADC or ECOWAS or East African region or even the Arab states, it's important that we have a harmonized framework for, let's say, if it's a data protection or security, so that we can be able to do that. But let me cover two things just before I summarize. When we have, let's say, the green energy technology coming in for data centers, it also brings an opportunity. And this opportunity is, as said by my colleague, allows for innovation. And this innovation that we are seeing, whether it is using artificial intelligence or Internet of Things, it could reduce the cost that we are seeing of energy. So innovation is a key component that brings the revenues and the cost benefits that we are talking about that has been presented. The other opportunity that we see is capacity development. I know we've had a pre-discussion, and the issue of capacity development becomes very, very sensitive. But the point is, we need to start training individuals in a manner that can be able to take and protect the data centers. I am seeing that many of us do training, but where do these trained people go? We don't have anywhere they can be absorbed. We need to make sure that training is focused, because that's an opportunity. The other aspect that we see where it brings a very big opportunity is that we shall be more trusted. Trust is an issue. Therefore, if we have harmonized frameworks, it ensures that member countries can trust themselves. Then we can spur business. We can be able to trade with each other without any problem, because we know that our data is secured and we can trust our neighbors. And then lastly, there is an issue of ensuring that we can be sustainable. As said, data centers have to be sustainable, so therefore the investment that we put in, we must make sure that it can regenerate itself going forward. At the moment, we only have one data center in the continent that is fully green, the Olkaria in Kenya, which uses the geothermal. So we need to make sure that we explore other alternatives or other data centers that can come into that particular fulfillment. In 2025, Africa alone is estimated to be, needs to have roughly about 700 data centers. 700 data centers. Right now, we have less than 100. So we really have a lot of work to do, but the point is, we've got to start somewhere. Thank you.
No, absolutely spot on. I'm glad that you raised the topic of capacity building, because this is so vital. Of course, we can speak about technologies, about financing, but what about the skill sets that are needed? So could you basically, from all your three standpoints, elaborate a bit what are the skills profiles that are needed when you consider to operate such a technical facility?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I'll take a minute just to give a perspective of Africa, because I know when we talk about capacity building, there's always a comment that we have trained people, but we don't do it. I think there's some specific countries that we can mention that are doing something within that space. So we see, for example, if you take Uganda, for example, if you take Rwanda, for example, they've made sure that at the tertiary level, university level, there is focus on cybersecurity to the level that we can see. We even have examples in Egypt, for example. We have examples in Kenya, for example, in Ghana, for example, and other countries in the south that are pulling themselves and pushing themselves toward making sure that we train people, not just briefcase of cybersecurity people, but people who understand it. Coming back to your question, the basic element of digital skills becomes important. But then you can build up and have courses that individuals can do. Unfortunately, certification courses are mainly Europe-based type of certification courses, which are very expensive locally. So we need to make sure that we ease how these certification courses can be used so that the price can go down to enable affordability. Back to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, please come in.
I believe the other thing that Africa needs to do as we build capacity and the skill set for running these data centers is original equipment manufacturers like Schneider need to partner with the data center companies as well as investment companies to build what are these skills. Today, if I'm looking for a facility manager for a data center, that's a completely different skill set to a cybersecurity manager. So just building on-job trainings that come from an alliance of the people in the industry versus just sending people to whichever courses are available, and then when they get on the job, they're really not necessary. Yeah.
Thank you. And also over to you, Nanla. What about the ICT profiles needed in the data center operation? The ICT profiles, we've heard about the cybersecurity profiles and also the energy/facility management profiles, but what about the key ICT engineers and people caring for the ICT operations in the data center? Could you elaborate on the capacities and skills needed in that field?
As far as I understand you, I'm not getting it. There are so many echoes. Sorry. Yes, I would agree. There are skills that are required in the data economy. You know, the data economy is such that it is difficult to build it because it touches on some disruptions. The economy touches on the economy, touches on policy making as well. First time I mentioned the fact that we require to change the approach first and foremost. That in its own right is one of the things that needs to be done so that we understand where we are. Let me just mention this fact that we need green thinking as well. The green thinking, the data centers need to be efficient in terms of energy. And the thinking about that also needs to change in the current economy, whereby we want data centers that are going to be energy efficient, they're going to reduce their ecological impact, they're going to reduce their carbon footprints as well. We need some skills in those things. We need to build data centers that are responsible in what terms? To take considerations of the grid capacities. We need data centers that yes, they taking into consideration the grid as well as the ecological footprints. That is, now we need to introduce waste management. Waste management is not done well as we speak, but we need to improve on that as well.
So now moving also further to the topic of how can we go about all of these challenges and also opportunities that we now portrayed. I would like to go on the level of regional collaboration, because now we are here at the Continental Conference, and as well we're considering how to team up, because it's a very specific topic and the skills are rare, allocated across the whole continent, and we need to come together to actually push forward and make progress. So Nanla, you made your point earlier that also regional collaboration is crucial for addressing the different challenges that we discussed, and also creating a sustainable digital infrastructure that also looks beyond energy use, but also like a life cycle perspective, right, on the ICT equipment that is used, but also the waste that is generated in the operation. So how can regional organizations like SATA would also help foster partnerships around these topics?
Well, SATA is actively working with other partners out there. In those areas, let's just take an example. The example that the data centers out there, we need to think the greenness, the green thinking in there. What we are saying today, as a region now, a region is bigger than an individual country. So when you talk of green energy, a green energy is possible in a region than it is possible in a country. Because each and every country, experiences different advantages of the natural resources, the wind and the sun. But the bigger the region is, there is a likelihood that somewhere in some space there is a sun, somewhere in some space there is wind blowing. So we can have energy and a bigger impact of energy. So as a regional organization, we work on these concepts, and we talk about them. We create programs that will help people understand the regional initiative, the regional desire.
Martin, how about your perspective on that, on regional collaboration around the challenges lying more kind of towards the cybersecurity field?
Yeah, let me just try and piggyback on the regional dynamics. I think it's important that we talk to the RECs, the regional economic communities, because they know the environment that is there among the member states. And within each member state, there's certainly some effort that are being done to build specific data centers, whether it's tier 1, 2, or 3, or even 4 for that matter. So I think regionally, if we go to at the RECs, we have a starting point. The second thing is for us to do what we call the stakeholder mapping, because different stakeholders bring different skill sets, different ideas within the member states, but even within the region. And that is something that we can look at going forward. And then thirdly is the issue around learning from those who have already done it. And I like the examples that have been given in the northern part of the world. I think the Scandinavian countries and other European countries have done very well when it comes to green energy and the issues about green data centers. So there's no need of reinventing the wheel. We should just be able to make sure that we understand how they do it, and then we come back and try and tropicalize it, or at least adapt it to the conditions that we have. There are opportunities that the GFC, where we sit, we can be able to provide. For example, we are now looking at an Africa agenda of cyber capacity building, and I think the issue of data center becomes very pivotal. For your diaries, if you mark the date of the 14th to the 15th of May, we shall be in Geneva, and this is the second time rather, where you're bringing capacity building individuals with cybersecurity experts to bring synergies of how we can be able to really tick the boxes and know how to help each other. And then finally, I think we really need to start from a working group, because all the people here, there are some people who are interested in this particular topic. I am interested, everybody's interested, so a working group will be a good starting point, that we come up with an action, with a few action points, and then if you convene us again next time, we'll come and then continue with that particular topic. Back to you.
Thank you. And Faith, over to you. How about summoning also the right talents and minds to also debunk kind of optimal integration of green technologies into the data center space, while being mindful of the environmental and climate conditions here on the continent?
Yasin, before I answer your question on talent, let me just speak on collaboration. I sit as a board member for the Africa Data Center Association. And as an association, what we've done is build collaboration with the industry. So with iMasons, infrastructure masons, we're looking at building the next skill set for Africa. So if you're sitting in this room and you're someone who needs to either partner with us or who needs to bring that skill set to us to train, we're inviting you to just talk to us after this and see how we can do that together. Now, coming to your question on talents. The average age in Africa is said to be 17 to 19. And we're seeing this age do things that I don't know how I can explain what they do with softwares or what they do with computers and phones, but I believe everyone in this room has seen it either with their own children, with their own Gen Z employees. If you're coming from Kenya like me, you've seen what our Gen Z can do in terms of building apps, software, all these things. If you look at everything we're currently doing in data centers, it's tried and tested. Sorry for that. But we need to get to that place where we can allow these talents to build building management systems, for example, that are built in Africa, running Africa data centers. Because as much as we want to ride on Europe or leapfrog some of the mistakes they've made, the truth is our environments are very different, the challenges we have are very different, and someone coming from that challenge will most likely build something that addresses the exact challenge they're dealing with. So for me, it's important to find, equip, build, and work with this next generation of talent.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So we have a few minutes left only, unfortunately. So let's open the floor to questions from our audience. We have one already here in the front. Do we also have an access mic? No? Then.
Thank you very much. My name is Bernard Brian Kudjo. I'm from AED NEPAD. So I have a question for the panelists. So you did mention, Martin, and also to you, our panelists from SATA. You did mention that we have less than 100 data centers today on the African continent. And looking into 2025, we're going to have more than 700. That means a lot of investment, a lot of data centers. So from where you sit, do you think the continent needs a framework that will regulate or regulate the coordination of these data centers that are expected to spring up in 2025? Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, let me correct one statistics. I think I was meant to say 2050, but that's the confusion there. But the point is, there has to be a progression of us developing data centers. There is something that we need to remember. Data centers that we are talking about as green data centers, even if we might not have them, there are data centers already existing in the continent. What we need to understand is how do we build on what we already have in order to reach the ultimate. So there is a need to understand the integration of the current existing data centers with the next generation data centers. There is a need to understand the utilitarialization, because the data centers are very much utility dependent. You need operators to tie in there. You need infrastructure people who are developing water to tie in there. So therefore, it is very utility dependent. And one needs to understand the interconnection, the dependency levels, and the vulnerability that are brought into that. And that requires the standard. So coming back to your point, we actually need definitely more investment, budgetary prioritization from our governments when it comes to data centers. Let's build data centers that have enough redundancy, data centers that can withstand resiliency to a specific level of service. I think those are the advice that we can give for now, but to do that, we need a progression of investment as we go through the ultimate point, coming back to your point. And therefore, we need awareness, we need the sensitization of decision makers, because remember, you and I are seated here, but the politicians make most of the decisions. So we need to make sure that they are part of this equation as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Abaran Shah from the Ministry of Water and Energy of Ethiopia. So, my question is, I've been hearing from the panelists about building trust. I think this is very fundamental for us. We all are here in the right place, in the AU, and the AUDA NEPAD is, I think, the most appropriate, organ to bring us together so that we will be able to build trust first. And we kept all our individual, data with ourselves, not confidence enough to release it to someone else for mutual benefits. So we are talking about data centers and so many issues related to data. So data is a resource, and I think what do you advise us? I mean, for us to truly talk about data sharing, and what are the governing, data sharing policies for us? What is the architecture of our expected thoughts for us member states to build trust so that we will share data for mutual benefits?
Okay, I will just answer a little bit and give my colleagues a chance. I think the starting point is for us to make sure that we have standards. And when we talk about standards, there must be agreeable standards. We've talked about the Malabo Convention that needs to be ratified. As we speak, and I'm looking directly to your eyes, the ratification of the Malabo Convention has only been done by 16 countries in the continent. So what we need to do is there's a lot of work that we need so that many countries can ratify it, because you cannot make amendments unless you ratify it. So the issue here is really we need to focus and say, let's go towards that direction, because it will enable us to start building trust. Because if your neighbor has ratified and I have ratified, we are more likely to go on the same direction, to get the same standard, to get the same agreement on what we need. So therefore, I think I would urge that the room here, those of us who are next to the, what we call the central power, we should go back and convince our constituents to ratify the Malabo Convention as a starting point. And then let us also look at the standards that are required so that these standards can be able to enable us to have a common playing ground where we can have interfaces that are based on a standard that is, we can connect with each other. You might not necessarily be able to send the information to the neighbor with an encryption that they can't even decrypt. And even when you send maybe an application that can't talk to each other, we have a problem. But the issue really is the Malabo Convention as a standard. Let's build from there going forward. Thank you.
I just have to ask you to keep it short in your question and your response, because we have one last question from the floor.
Okay. No, I wanted to add on what my colleague has just said. He mentioned Malabo Convention, yes. I want to touch a little bit on what happened last year. We were in Egypt and African Union data policy. Again there, I want to say we are slow in taking things up, like my colleague has said. So that is why probably we are saying the regulatory environment, the regulatory frameworks need to change a little bit so that probably we pick up some speed when we implementing such things, which are very critical at this juncture. This is the data economy. That's a brief of it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ivan Watedem from Douala, Cameroon. You're an entrepreneur and software developer. We've talked a lot about skill set here, but looking at my local environment, I found it very difficult to find, how can I say, the materials to acquire those skill sets. Personally, from my own experience, going through university, I clearly didn't learn anything. I had to take a Silicon Valley standard course to level up my skills. So looking at our environment, is it a, how can I say it? Maybe it's your role, you that are ahead of us in the industry, to help build materials, like study materials to help us, how can I say, acquire those skills. Because we can find how can I say, courses online, but they are not contextualized. So we found it, we are frustrated. We don't know where to look at, where to get those skills. We are eager to learn, but we don't have the resources. So how can we do to solve this issue?
Okay, I think we can help you with that, and we'll start with the simple ones, like Schneider University for Data Center. And then we can connect with you in particular, and anyone else in the room who would like to connect with us to get access to courses that are individualized or that are data center centric. So I will connect with you after this, and then let's see where to start based on what you're interested in. But Yasin, as you finish, I think my colleague spoke about building a working group. I think one of my biggest frustrations in Africa is the fact that we have conversations, but we don't have action, and it's not measurable. So I've been going to these events, and in 2024, I made a point that at every event I will go to, I will bring this up. So with your permission, I would like for the people sitting in this room to agree with us that come PIDA Week 2025, we will have measurable actions from today's conversations. How many green data centers have we designed? How many have we built? How much efficiency have we brought into Africa? How many people have we trained, and in what skill set? So each of us is responsible to see to it that that happens. So that's my challenge to the entire room and to myself as well. So I hope that come PIDA Week 2025, we'll actually be sitting here, and instead of simply having a conversation, we'll have a back banner with measurables for what we achieved.
Sorry, I know you talked about the action, but let me come back to the gentleman, and I really empathize with the situation. This is what I want to say. Institutions within our countries must start looking at how do you attract young people to work in those institutions and to build loyalty. If we don't do that, if you get a young person going into an organization, they will simply wait, and as soon as they've gotten their certification, they are out of that door. So what I'm saying is that institutions, and these institutions, we know them, make sure that you build an incentivization program that brings the young people that we are seeing here who are saying they do not have an avenue to go to. But we know institutions are employing people, but they're not bringing the young people through with the talent that is required and building the loyalty. I'll give you an example. There are some governments that have very good military training. They pay university fee for their military recruits, And those recruits work for them for some time, and they may work even longer. So building loyalty in recruitment is important because we are in an industry that is very fluid. Everyone wants to go where there's knowledge. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I thought I'd try my luck to have a brief conclusion, but you wonderfully nailed it. So this only leaves me to thank you, our esteemed panelists, for such an engaging and thought-provoking discussion. And we've explored and touched on critical topics like energy efficiency, green technologies, the role of regulatory action, but also skills that are needed to actually succeed in this transformation. So for the closing remarks, I have one question to you, to one of each of you, and you have 3 options to respond: yes, maybe, and no. So my question is, to you: do you believe continental regulatory action, such as a master plan that Bernard brought up, could facilitate to approach these efforts and also to address those challenges that we discussed today?
Yes. I think emphatically yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was clear. I didn't expect that altogether, but yeah, let's close this session now. I think Benna and Oda Nepat, this might be a recommendation from our esteemed panelists to get to work and also summon the right people and minds to actually debunk some of those challenges and issues. And with this, yeah, let's close this panel. Thank you very much for your attention and also for your feedback online. And yeah, have a good one.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Just some housekeeping rules. It's lunchtime now, and there's going to be someone outside that would lead you to
Thank you, including yourself, especially yourselves. So I'm going to ask everybody to just hold a hand of the person next to you, like that. Is it held? Find somebody next to you and just hold that person. Everybody's hold a hand of somebody? Is everybody holding a hand of somebody? So I want us to look at the person next to you and the other person from the other side and say, howdy, brother, howdy, sister. Howdy, brother, howdy, sister. Because indeed, keep your hands held like that. Because indeed, as we hold our hands like this, just know that here in Africa, we are brothers and sisters. That is not your enemy. That is not your competitor. It's your brother. It's your sister. So, in the words of the Minister of Transport and Logistics, who opened for us last night, Dr. Ale Musime of Ethiopia. His opening remarks last night was let us remember we have a shared vision to develop infrastructure in order to achieve our African dream. We need collaboration and collective strength to help us build sustainable infrastructure and achieve inclusive growth. And then in the words of Director Amin Idris, who spoke on behalf of the CEO of Ouder-NEPAD, he said that infrastructure does not only drive economic development in our continent, but it connects not only the road, it connects the people. So look at the people around you. It also connects ideas and opportunities. So let us make Africa great. Now those are my words. We may sit down. Thank you. So the panel discussion today is really about connecting the continent and sharing the experiences of corridor development in Africa. So as we connected our hands, I hope that in some time in the future we may be connected as Africa through the corridors that we are developing. If I can ask somebody to please come and remove this podium in front of us. Thank you. Are you comfortable? You had a good lunch? That's great. All right. So the panel discussion is about really connecting the continent through corridor development. Maybe before I start the discussion, we didn't get an opportunity to read your profiles and go through, the accolades and your achievements. It would really be lovely just to understand who you are, the organization that you represent, what is the work that you're doing within the organization in relation, obviously, to corridor development. I'm going to give you a minute just to go over that because we will go to a detailed discussion, but I really want to understand for everybody else, who are you?